All right, diving in. Today we're taking on something you sent our way. Chapter 2, Education by Ellen G. White. The Eating School. Kind of a different angle, right? Not the usual education debates. We're going back, way back to what this chapter calls the very beginning, the foundation of learning itself.
Yeah, it really flips the script. This chapter lays out Eden, like the original classroom. And it's saying this is the model. This is how we should be thinking about education, period.
Yeah.
And the teacher, well, let's just say it's not your average professor. We're talking about the creator himself.
You know, when I saw this one, I was hooked immediately. Such a different way of looking at things, right? Because we think school, we think buildings, desks, textbooks. But this is saying, hold on, there's something much deeper here. So let's unpack this Eden School idea. See what it can teach us about how we learn, how we grow, and who knows, maybe it's got some wisdom for us even today.
Absolutely. Let's start with the basics. Where's the school? Eden. The chapter calls it the first schoolroom. And get this, the lesson book is nature itself. The whole world, untouched, brand new. Can you imagine that as your classroom?
And it's not just any nature, right? It's Eden, untouched by sin, as the chapter puts it. Perfect harmony. Everything in its place. No distractions, no pollution, no, the messiness of our world. Does that change how we think about the best place to learn?
That perfection is key. The chapter even talks about how everything was planted with purpose. Every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden. It's deliberate, beautiful, and useful. This wasn't just a random forest, it was designed. Makes you wonder, right? How much does our environment actually affect our learning?
Totally. So we've got this incredible setting. Now, who's teaching this class? Well, according to the chapter, the main teacher is the creator himself. That's pretty intense, learning straight from the source of all knowledge.
Think about that. Adam and Eve, they had God as their personal tutor. It's not some distant figure lecturing. This is one-on-one guidance completely invested in their growth.
And the chapter throws in another detail here. It wasn't just God. Holy angels were involved too. Messengers giving counsel and instruction. It's like a whole team of heavenly advisors helping them along.
Exactly. A full educational experience, not just watching nature. They're having conversations with higher beings. And listen to this. This is a direct quote. Often as they walked in the garden in the cool of the day, they heard the voice of God and face to face held communion with the eternal. Face to face. That's a level of learning we can barely fathom, right?
It really stretches the imagination. And what's even more amazing is the motivation behind all this. The chapter says God's thoughts toward them were thoughts of peace and not of evil. His every purpose was their highest good, pure goodness. He wanted what was best for them. That's the basis of this whole education.
So important to remember that. It's all rooted in love and care. Now, who were these students? Adam and Eve, the first ones to get this incredible education. What were they like?
Well, the chapter says they were made in the image and glory of God. Right off the bat, you see this inherent value, this potential, this idea that every person has this capacity for learning built in.
It's powerful. And it wasn't just a spiritual thing, it was physical too. The chapter describes them as graceful and symmetrical in form, regular and beautiful in feature, their countenances glowing with the tint of health and the light of joy and hope. Perfect health, vitality, joy. Makes a thing, right? How connected are our bodies and minds to our learning?
Absolutely. But it's not just the outside. The chapter talks about their mind and soul. They had these amazing gifts, high mental and spiritual gifts. They were made but a little lower than the angels. Think about that. They had this natural curiosity, this openness to the spiritual world.
And those gifts, they weren't just for fun. They had a purpose. To discern the wonders of the visible universe, to see and understand creation, but also, and this is crucial, to comprehend moral responsibilities and obligations. It's tying their intelligence to their ethics, to understanding right and wrong, their place in the world.
So perfect setting, amazing teachers, incredible students. What was on the syllabus at the Eden School? What were they learning?
The chapter is very clear about this. The Book of Nature was their textbook. It's saying the whole natural world, with all its complexity and wonder, was their classroom. And it wasn't just looking at things. Listen to this. On every leaf of the forest and stone of the mountains, in every shining star, in earth and sea and sky, God's name was written. Every part of creation was a lesson, pointing back to the Creator.
That's beautiful. It's like the whole world was telling this story, revealing God's character. And it wasn't just seeing things either. The chapter says they held converse with all of creation, from the Leviathan of the waters to the mote in the sunbeam. The dwellers in Eden held converse, gathering from each the secrets of its life. They were communicating with it all. Imagine the depth of knowledge they gained from that.
And they were studying some pretty big stuff. The chapter lists it out. God's glory in the heavens, the innumerable worlds and their orderly revolutions, the balancings of the clouds, the mysteries of light and sound, of day and night. It's like a science curriculum, right? But completely intertwined with the spiritual.
And this wasn't just about memorizing facts. The chapter says the laws and operations of nature and the great principles of truth that govern the spiritual universe were opened to their minds by the infinite author of all. They were learning the why behind everything, the connection between the physical and spiritual.
Exactly. And what was the result? In the light of the knowledge of the glory of God, their mental and spiritual powers developed, and they realized the highest pleasures of their holy existence. It's a complete education, mind, body, spirit. And it led to true joy. Makes you wonder if our education today is doing enough to address all those parts of who we are.
And here's something interesting. The chapter also talks about the role of work in all this. Adam and Eve, they were told to dress it and to keep it, to take care of the garden.
Yes. And it's not presented as a chore. The chapter says useful occupation was appointed them as a blessing, to strengthen the body, to expand the mind, and to develop the character. Work is part of the education. It's good for us physically, mentally, and even morally. That's something we often miss, right?
It really is. Meaningful work, it's not separate from learning. It's part of it. It gives us purpose. We see our knowledge put into action. And the chapter's saying it's good for us on every level.
Exactly. It's moving beyond just theory. It's about experience, about responsibility, about taking care of the world around us. And the chapter doesn't just stop at Eden. It gives us a bigger picture.
Yeah, it describes the whole earth as it was originally created. Exceedingly beautiful, without sin or death. And remember that incredible line, God's glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. The morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. This was a perfect world.
In Eden, the chapter says it was a model, a little preview of what God wanted for the whole earth.
And it actually says what God's plan was. That as the human family increased in numbers, they should establish other homes and schools like the one he had given. Thus, in course of time, the whole earth might be occupied with homes and schools where the words and the works of God should be studied, and where the students should thus be fitted more and more fully to reflect, throughout endless ages, the light of the knowledge of his glory. That's the big vision, right? A world full of learning, reflecting God's character.
It's incredible. It's like this ongoing process of education, shaping humanity to be more like its creator. And Eden is the starting point. So the Eden School wasn't just a one-time thing, it's the foundation.
So thinking back on this whole Eden School idea, perfect environment, incredible teachers, gifted students, a curriculum about understanding both the natural and the spiritual, and work is a vital part of it all. And then this bigger vision of a world dedicated to learning, to reflecting God's glory. It's a lot to take in.
Definitely. Thinking about your own learning journey, what stands out to you from all this? What about this idea of nature as a teacher, or the importance of work in our growth? How could those things change the way we learn and interact with the world today?
I'm definitely thinking about how much I miss out on by being stuck indoors all the time. Maybe I need to get out into nature more, really experience it. And the idea of work as a blessing, not just a chore. I'm going to try to see my everyday tasks in a new light.
And this is the big question, right? If Eden is the model, how do we take these principles and apply them to our lives today? Our world is so different, but maybe those fundamental ideas are still relevant, something to think about as you keep learning and growing.